The forest moon of Endor, an iconic location. With familiar faces and foes, Endor has been displayed numerous times in the Star Wars universe in one way or another, ranging from the movies to the comics and even the video games. Taking a look here on the galaxy map, it is in the Outer Rim territories, and it is in the Modell sector. Endor has a couple other anomalies around it. It has the Monsua Nebula and Endor's Gate. Both of those could potentially cause inconsistent hyperlane exits, so it is a less than traveled planet and sector. Endor is home to dense forests, tall mountains, savannas, and breathable air, and two suns as well, with 8% of the surface being water. Home to the Ewoks, the Dulocs, the Yuzzums, the Wisties, the gorax, and many more species lie on the forest moon of Endor. The Ewoks were primitive creatures. They spoke Ewokese and partook in a number of festivals, which included dancing and music. Ewoks had a strong cultural and spiritual role in their society, with themselves, their shaman, and nature on the overall. Some of their festivals included festivals for the rain, sun, spring, flowers, fruit, and even dark rituals where sacrifices were included. They lived in the canopy of trees in central villages, lake villages, ground and cliff villages as well. Crafty engineers, they have hang gliders for travel, forest firemen, hunting, and recreational use as well. They also had canoes and a number of other contraptions that they were able to create. The cousin to the Ewoks, the Dulocs, they were a tall and lanky species that lived in the swamps of Endor and had a reputation of being a foul-tempered barbarians at the worst. They had an aggressive warlike culture, and they were also very superstitious as well. I presume that this is because they grew up in the swamps and not the forests. They hated the Ewoks for having a bountiful life in the forest, and were ultimately a very dumb species. Duloc brain was an insult Ewoks used. Would often wage war with the Ewoks, raid camps, and eat them as well, as Ewoks were a highly sought after food for Dulocs. The Whisties were a fire folk or a fairy-like species on Endor. They would often team up with the Ewoks and lived with them, but they also lived in the swamps as well. The Whisties were used for a number of reasons in Ewok culture and vice versa, but also assisted the Ewoks in protecting the forest as well. The gorax, which was the giants of Endor, the Ewoks would have to defend against them sometimes when they came down from the mountains. And part of the reason why Ewoks live up in the trees is that the gorax would often smash their ground settlements. The Yuzzum species, which were a round, shaggy species native to the plains of Endor, often described as dreamy wanderers. Why would the Empire want to build the second Death Star close to Endor? It's simple. Not a lot of people knew about Endor, or it was hardly visited. I think a couple bounty hunters or people who were looking to hunt Ewoks to sell them for food was about some of the only times that Endor was ever discussed, and especially with the space anomalies where inconsistent hyperlane travel was happening. No one wanted to go to Endor, so that's why the Empire saw it as a perfect location to build a secret weapon. I would also presume that they wanted Endor for the natural resources. Of course, the swamps and water are there for the Empire, and of course the forest. I have to presume that there's a decent amount of, Endor timber on the Death Star, but also they used the Dulocs as slaves as they helped them build the Empire radio station on Endor as well. Endor can be seen across the Star Wars galaxy in numerous ways. I would say if you want to explore Endor in other ways besides, you know, the video games and the movies, just check out the Ewoks TV show from like the 80s, the animated. I used to watch that when I was a kid. Honestly, I'd probably like to see more what Ewoks are like, you know, with a more modern day lens to it. But, you know, we can see Endor in Star Wars Battlefront 1, the 2005 edition, and then, you know, going from the new Star Wars Battlefront and Star Wars Battlefront 2, and then it can be seen all across the Star Wars universe as well. Endor is a pretty cool planet. I mean, like I said, it's an iconic planet. So yeah, that's Endor. If you want to check out more of it, I don't know, come back here, rewatch the video. But until then, until next video, goodbye.